If you like what I do, consider joining my channel or donating to my coffee. Links in the description.
For example, I really don't want to imagine it, but would you want to know what the library director's socks smell like? I am curious.
Joke's on you, I'm into that
As you may or may not know, I'm kind of a weeb. I've been into anime and manga long before it was ever considered cool or even tolerated here in the US of A. Naturally, I've played more than my fair share of games drenched in anime aesthetics. And Idea Factory has always delivered on that front with their JRPGs and visual novel hybrids. Their games have a very specific charm. Big personalities, over-the-top worlds, and stories that lean fully into their own absurdity. It's a formula I adore, and one they've stuck to for most of their history. That's exactly why Ariana and the Elder Codex is such a standout moment. For the first time ever, I'm pretty sure, Idea Factory and Compile Heart, alongside Hyde, are stepping outside of their Otome comfort zone and releasing a full-on Metroidvania. It's a genre shift nobody expected from a studio known for turn-based battles and visual novel pacing, which makes this game not just interesting, but genuinely historic for the company. But what's the game about, you ask? You play as a librarian named Ariana. I know that doesn't sound exciting, but Ariana is about as much of a librarian as Natsu from Fairy Tail is a wizard. Ariana doesn't even use the Dewey Decimal System. When she cracks open a book, expect a sword or an explosion to come flying out. Anyway, Ariana's world runs on magic, and that magic is governed by the 7 hero codices. But when some unknown ne'er-do-well tampers with the tones, magic suddenly vanishes. Now it's up to Ariana and her unique ability to dive into each codex's world to repair their stories and restore magic. Is this adventure a page-turner, or is it destined for your DNF pile?
Combat.
Combat is Ariana's bread and butter. It starts out kind of fun with a Devil May Cry-esque juggling system with your sword spell, a dash with iframes, and a healing spell, but after you get a few codices under your belt, things start to get a bit chaotic, but I freaking love it. Let's start from the beginning. Hold on to your butts, because there are a lot of mechanics to go over. Ariana attacks by using magic, but she doesn't use MP. Instead, she has a cooldown system. So, as long as your spell isn't in cooldown, you can spam the heck out of whatever you want. My go-to was the bubbles. Once you level them up, fights become absolutely wacky. It's incredible, but more on that in the progression section. When it comes to equipping magic, Ariana has 2 loadouts, each with 3 spells. You assign spells to face buttons and swap loadouts by holding a trigger, effectively giving you a total of 6 spells to equip. Each spell has an elemental affinity: earth, fire, wind, and neutral. Each enemy also comes with an elemental affinity. So, you know what that means. Earth magic does more damage to wind enemies and vice versa. Fire magic does more damage to water enemies and vice versa. And elemental magic hitting an enemy with the matching element reduces damage taken. It's a simplified system that we've seen before, but it's still effective and engaging nonetheless. Where the elements get really interesting and wacky is with elemental bursts. As you hit enemies with elemental magic, they'll accumulate elemental energy or whatever. Once this circle over their head fills, a burst of elemental energy will hit all surrounding enemies. And this causes a chain reaction that hits more enemies, which causes a chain reaction that hits more enemies until there are no more enemies to hit. It's absurdly satisfying to pull off these high chain bursts and drink in the chaos that ensues. Hey, Future Luke here. I want to talk briefly about this game's performance, as you'll probably notice the stuttering and frame rate dips as the review moves along. I played Ariana and the Elder Codex on the Switch and experienced a lot of these stutters and dips. However, I want to share with you that there's an option inside the settings called Prioritize Frame Rate. I highly suggest turning this one on, as it does wonders for the game's performance. I'll do a side-by-side so you can see the difference. I didn't discover this option until I literally reached the end of the game. The performance against the final boss was so poor, it was nearly unplayable. That's when I was like, there's gotta be something in the settings to fix this. And sure enough, there was. So yeah, toggle that bad boy on. It makes a huge difference. Okay, bye. Another mechanic that revolves around elements is called form change. These little things down here. As you use elements, these circles will fill up. Once one of these circles is either half full or half empty, depending on whether you're an optimist or pessimist, you can activate your magical girl mode and swap dresses. Also, all your weapon attacks have the activated element added to them, and you do more damage with elements of that spell, so that's cool, I guess. Ariana eventually unlocks a super attack in the form of a huge beam that deals massive damage in front of her, because of course she does. It wouldn't be a game with anime aesthetics without a huge giant beam, obviously. This laser can only be fired once you fill up this circle, and you fill it up by exploding, freezing, and stabbing jabronis. The last mechanic I want to discuss is the stun meter. Enemies' stun meters decrease as you hit them, and once the meter is gone, they get stunned. While stunned, every hit you land will be critical. It's a system that awards aggression, and I like it. Before we get into the gameplay loop and bosses, I want to talk about a foible I experienced. The game encourages juggling, but Ariana's standard air combo doesn't facilitate juggling in a couple of ways. One, the final hit is a spike, sending enemies crashing to the ground at Mach speed, which is cool in its own right, so I'll file this as a non-issue. But the final strike that delivers enemies to the ground, like their high priority mail, is way too short. There were so many times I'd straight whiff the final strike because Ariana's other attacks would push enemies too far away for me to land. It's not a big issue until you're being timed and that whiff costs you that coveted A rank. Ariana's gameplay loop consists of many locked in arena fights. Every room you enter will almost always have at least one arena fight, or very likely two, which is rad because I love Ariana's combat. Anyway, certain arena fights, called repairs, are timed and provide a rank of C, B, or A depending on how quickly you clear the arena. With every A rank, you get rewarded. More on those rewards in the progression section. So it can get kind of frustrating when you keep missing your aerial combos and getting your rhythm disrupted. Now, missing an A rank because you missed the last strike in your air combo is low on the list of reasons why you'll miss your A rank, but it's still on the list and happened to me a few times. Alright, let's close this section by discussing the bosses. The bosses in Ariana are a mixed bag in terms of difficulty. The first couple of bosses are a cinch, but this giant bird boss sent me through the ringers, which was fine because it was the first boss that actually forced me to engage with the game's many mechanics as well as battle prep. But later, you fight a boss and win like this. Then I got to the final boss who wiped the floor with me. I guess I'll say that the bosses are all over the place in difficulty, but I didn't mind. Whether they were hard or not, I had fun flinging legions and legions of bubbles at them. Now, I played on the normal difficulty. I can definitely see how things could get heated if you played on hard. There's also an easy mode if you're interested, but I found the default difficulty to be a little on the easier side, a few bosses notwithstanding. And that's it for combat. Despite some uneven boss difficulty and a few aerial hiccups, Ariana's combat is a whole lot of fun, where elemental systems, spell loadouts, and chain reactions come together in a surprisingly deep and satisfying loop. It's a system that rewards experimentation and aggression and remains engaging from start to finish.
Abilities. Platforming.
Platforming in Ariana is fine, serviceable even. Ariana feels great to move with, and she has plenty of obstacles to overcome. Bottomless pits, spikes, and traps. None of which kill you instantly, and that's huge. There might not be anything in Metroidvanias more obnoxious than insta-death hazards. But yeah, platforming's okay. Ariana's more into combat than jumping, so don't expect many platforming challenges to contend with. Sometimes you'll have to do a little race through an obstacle course, and there are optional sections that require some slightly above novice level platforming skills, but by and large, getting where you need to go in Ariana isn't too tough. And that's mostly thanks to how standard her movement options are. She starts with a dash and eventually gets a mid-air dash, a double jump, and a ground pound. And that's pretty much it until the very end of the game when you unlock a more interesting ability I won't spoil here. It's cool, but you get it so late you can't really enjoy it. Biomes have their gimmicks, and that's always appreciated, but the gimmicks here are pretty weak. The Wind Codex has strong gusts that push you around, and one of the later biomes has disappearing blocks, but really there's nothing to get too excited about. Again, platforming is fine in Ariana, but its focus is its combat. Now, Ariana's puzzles can get interesting. She has to deal with doors locked from the other side and doors that require keys. But she also deals with doors that require you to flip switches and doors that require you to summarize stories and answer quizzes and interpret a poem. There's a lot of door-centric puzzles to solve, but at least the devs were creative with them. And that'll do it for this section. Platforming in Ariana gets the job done, but it's never the star of the show. Ariana moves well and the hazards are fair, but the challenges stay simple, the biome gimmicks are mild, and her toolkit is mostly standard for an MV. Overall, the platforming is perfectly serviceable, but it's clear the game's heart beats in its combat, not its jumps.
Progression.
On the MV spectrum, Ariana is a Metroidvania light. It has XP and a leveling system, but I didn't find leveling up to be very impactful. You get more attack and HP with each level, but no skill points to put into any talent trees, which is fine because not every game needs skill points and skill trees. I guess I found leveling a bit underwhelming because you could also increase your attack and HP stats by getting A ranks in the repair arena fights. Told you I'd bring it back in the progression section. Boom! And those are the only stats you can increase. Pretty simple, and simple is a good thing, of course. Ariana can also equip magic items, or accessories. You have so many slots, and each accessory costs a certain amount of slots. And getting A ranks can sometimes reward you with more slot points. Accessories modify Ariana in a bunch of ways, from increasing HP to damage reduction to decreasing spell cooldown time to increasing how much repair fragments you can collect. And now we get into shopping and crafting. There are 3 things you can collect that are needed to shop and craft: repair fragments, weak magic remnants, and strong magic remnants. All of these things can be dropped by defeated enemies, with repair fragments being guaranteed drops and the magic remnants being a bit more uncommon. Though you will most likely find remnants in chests hidden around the codices. With these currencies, you'll be able to craft accessories and unlock and upgrade your magic. Upgrading magic was my favorite thing to do because it was so impactful. For starters, unlocking spells meant you had a brand new attack, and then upgrading spells meant your attacks were gonna get stronger and have new properties. Let's bring back my favorite spell, the bubbles. They start by popping when they hit enemies, but once you level them up, they go through enemies and last longer, becoming an absolute menace to gangs of enemies in tight spaces. You can't upgrade every spell out the gate. First, you must defeat a Codex's boss to unlock that Codex's spells. Defeat the giant bird, get the wind spells. Simple as that. There are also 3 special codices that need to be beaten before you can level up the stronger spells in each codex. It's a fine format to ensure you don't get too strong too quickly. There's also a couple of activity logs you can gain lots of rewards from. By achieving things like repairing a codex to 100%, or collecting a bunch of magic items, or simply by progressing the story, you'll earn all kinds of goodies, from repair fragments, remnants, to some sweet magic items to equip. It's an interesting and effective way to make the game more rewarding. And that'll do it for progression. Ariana keeps things simple, but still gives you enough to tinker with. Leveling up feels kinda weak, but accessories and spellcrafting provide meaningful ways of character expression. It's a straightforward progression loop, but the impact of upgrading magic makes it consistently rewarding. And the constant rewards, drip-fed through the activity logs, keeps you hooked throughout your entire adventure.
Exploration.
Ariana's exploration is not going to ignite the Metroidvania's soul. To start, the game's biomes are level-based with zero interconnectivity. But the game at least goes for non-linearity by allowing you to enter any codex you want whenever you want, though you'll soon find out that may not be a good idea. Each codex has a difficulty rating for a reason. The way Ariana's world is set up is thusly. You start out in a library, speak with all the NPCs, hit up the magic and crafting NPCs to enhance yourself, then go to the room where the codices are housed and jump into one of the books to start your adventure. It's a fine enough gameplay loop for sure, but again, not a loop that will ignite your Metroidvania soul. While you're able to select any biome to your heart's content, the biomes themselves are excruciatingly linear, requiring Ariana to go to specific locations in a specific order if she wants to advance. Each biome's treated like a self-contained level, and any backtracking you do is 100% optional, most likely to return to a codex you didn't 100% repair because you didn't have the ground pound or something. Now, full disclosure, I 100% repaired every codex before I 100% repaired the final codex. So I don't know if 100% repairing every codex is necessary to complete the game or to achieve a true ending. I just naturally 100%ed each codex. So if you do need to 100% repair each codex in order to progress in the game, then backtracking would be necessary. But I don't know because I 100% repaired every codex as I went along. Let me know in the comments if backtracking to 100% all the codices is necessary or not. Now, let's talk about what 100% repairing a codex means. See this rip? You repair these by interacting with them and winning the ensuing arena battle or race. The rank you get isn't important. All that matters is you find all these tears and complete their task. Sometimes these tears will be out in the open, sometimes they'll be behind locked doors, sometimes you'll have to find and defeat a certain enemy in that area to reveal the tear. Once a tear is repaired, that area will gain color on the in-game map. If you see an area that's black and white, that means there's a tear you haven't found. I love visual clues like that to help me 100% a game. Speaking of the in-game map, it's pretty good. Areas are depicted accurately, and the color mechanic to help you find rips is super helpful. You can't place custom pins on it, but that doesn't really matter when the game's this linear, and the chests you'd be pinning on the map to return to later are kinda lame. Chests mainly hold the game's three currencies: repair fragments and the weak and strong magic remnants. And considering all of these are dropped by defeated enemies, it's tough to get excited when you stumble across one. Rarely they held anything besides these currencies. So, the million-dollar question, is Ariana's exploration rewarding? For a Metroidvania, it leaves a lot to be desired. The exploration's fine for a side-scrolling action game, but for Metroidvania enthusiasts who really like to get lost, find their own way, and enjoy the thrill of discovery, Ariana just isn't going to do it for you. I'll reiterate, exploration is fine for an action game, but in the Metroidvania space, there are so many titles that do exploration much better. Also, there's no fast travel. The most you can do is leave a biome at any time, re-enter the biome, and choose a chapter to start in. It works, I guess. And that's it for exploration. Ariana's exploration gets the job done, but it won't scratch the itch for anyone craving true Metroidvania discovery. The codices are linear, self-contained levels with only light, presumably optional backtracking, and while the repair system and color-coded map make 100% completion satisfying, there really isn't moment-to-moment wondering. It's perfectly fine for what it is, but for Metroidvaniers who live for getting lost and uncovering secrets, Ariana's exploration lands on the lighter side.
Atmosphere, narrative.
Ariana's presentation is very pleasing to my eyes, given my weeb status. I love the characters and enemies' designs. They're rendered in a 3D, quasi-chibi style that's pretty dang cute, and the environments are hand-drawn and very creative. Each codex holds a unique world, so there's a diverse array of locales to explore. The music is pretty serviceable, and the sound design is a lot of fun. The symphony of chimes that pops off when you do a chain of elemental blasts is music to my ears. Overall, it's a beautiful package with excellent character portraits that are peak Idea Factory. Something else peak Idea Factory is the game's narrative. This isn't a dating sim, nor is it a visual novel, but boy, does this game yap. Talking to NPCs between missions and reading all the world-building books in the library is an arduous task, especially if you're like me and don't like a lot of reading during your gaming sessions. There's some pretty excellent voice work during specific cutscenes. I mean, I liked it, but again, weeb. But the great majority of conversations will be text only. All this story and flavor text might be right up your alley, but for me, I found myself skipping NPC dialogue frequently. Most of the dialogue I skipped was optional NPC banter between missions, so I don't feel like I missed anything. Not that you could miss anything. Nothing against the game's story. It's perfectly fine and was a good enough vehicle to keep me invested. But the plot itself will not surprise you. The game tries to build up a mystery around who altered the codices, but you'll figure it out as soon as you start the game. So when the reveal finally comes around, you'll at least get a good laugh out of the attempt to be sly. But that's not to say the narrative's bad, just predictable. I liked the world the game set up, I liked the loose threads it ends on, and if Ariana gets a sequel, I'd like to see where this world and its characters go. The story is very Idea Factory, which I like, and if you're into Idea Factory's other games, you'll most likely enjoy it too. And that's it for this section. Ariana's presentation nails that signature Idea Factory charm with cute quasi-chibi models, vibrant hand-drawn environments, and character portraits that look fantastic. The sound design pops, and the whole package is easy on the eyes and ears. The story, meanwhile, is classic Idea Factory. Fun, talkative, predictable, and absolutely stuffed with optional flavor text. It won't shock you with twists, but the world is cozy, the characters are likable, and the tone is exactly what longtime fans of the publisher expect. Even if the narrative yaps a bit too much, it's an enjoyable backdrop that sets the stage for Ariana's magical journey.
Final thoughts and score.
Ariana and the Elder Codex is a stylish, combat-first Metroidvania light that shines brightest when the screen is exploding with elemental bursts and bubbles flying everywhere. The combat system is deep, flexible, and consistently entertaining thanks to its cooldown-based magic, chain reactions, and satisfying spell upgrades. The presentation delivers classic Idea Factory charm, even if the story yaps a bit and the mystery is predictable. Still, the upgrade system, spellcrafting, and constant rewards from the combat and activity logs keeps the experience engaging from start to finish. It's not the most exploratory or platform-heavy MV out there, but as a magical girl action romp, it absolutely delivers. I award Ariana and the Elder Codex a 7.5 out of 10. Ariana and the Elder Codex is available on Switch and PlayStation 4 and 5 on March 24th, 2026, with a PC release coming on April 29th, 2026. I played the game on the Switch and found the performance to be great once I toggled on prioritize frame rate.
Pair placement.
Ariana and the Elder Codex's chaotic, spell-swapping combat is easily the star of the show, delivering a satisfying loop full of elemental bursts, loadout experimentation, and screen-filling chain reactions. The platforming and exploration don't quite reach the same highs, serviceable, linear, and rarely surprising, but they support the action well enough without dragging the experience down. Paired with charming presentation and a predictable yet cozy narrative, Ariana offers a fun, combat-forward adventure that will please Idea Factory loyalists and action game aficionados, but won't quite satiate a Metroidvania fan's wanderlust. Ariana and the Elder Codex repairs the C tier. Ariana might not scratch the MV itch as well as other games in the genre, but it's still a fun action side-scroller Metroidvaniers might still enjoy as long as their expectations are in check. And that's Ariana for me.